Please subscribe.
Volvo has been recovering strongly after its near collapse a few years ago, with a healthy injection of funds from its Chinese owner. Geely's invested in a range of new engines and chassis that'll underpin the entire range. We've already been impressed by the S90 and V90, as well as the XC90 and XC60 SUVs. The XC40 is the next step in the process, because while all of the 60 and 90 models use Volvo's larger chassis architecture, called SPA, the 40 cars use a smaller, cheaper setup called CMA. The idea is that Volvo can share a lot of these components with Geely's cars in China, boosting the economies of scale and allowing it to make a profit on smaller models sold against the big volume German premium brands, Audi, Mercedes and the XC40 looks noticeably more funky and youthful than its larger SUV stablemates, but despite the switch of platform, a lot of the car's mechanical ethos remains the same. There are no 6-cylinder engines offered, for example, it's 3- and 4-cylinder petrols, and 4-cylinder diesels only. And yes, a plug-in hybrid variant is on the way, along with the pure electric version. For now, though, the XC40 comes with T3, T4, and T5 petrol engines, all turbocharged units, producing 154 bhp, 188 bhp and 247 bhp. The T3 is available with front-wheel drive and a manual gearbox only, while the T4 and T5 stick with all-wheel drive and an 8-speed automatic. The diesel options are the 148 bhp D3, the most efficient XC40 so far, with CO2 emissions as low as 127 grams/km, and the 188 bhp D4. The range has 3 core trim levels: Momentum, R-Design and Inscription, although all of them have additional sub-models, called Pro. Momentum brings dual-zone climate control, 18-inch alloy wheels, rear parking sensors, auto wipers, cruise control, a 12.3-inch digital instrument panel. Every car gets Volvo's highly rated 9-inch portrait layout infotainment system, while Momentum Pro adds heated front seats, a heated windscreen, adaptive headlights and auto-folding side mirrors. R-Design takes the Momentum spec and adds leather seats, the auto-folding side mirrors, a different design of diamond-cut alloy wheel, gloss black trim, tinted windows and leather on the steering wheel and gear knob. Then R-Design Pro throws in the heated front seats and adaptive headlights again, but also beefs up the looks with 20-inch alloys and brings further comfort with power adjustment on the driver's seat. Inscription is the top level, with ambient lighting, a powered tailgate, metallic paint, front parking sensors, and a matte silver finish on the front and rear skid plates. But even here you'll need the Pro trim for the extra goodies. Doing so gives you 19-inch wheels and LED front fog lights. The key rivals are the small SUVs from the 3 German brands, so the Audi Q3, BMW X1 and Mercedes GLA and GLC, along with the Lexus NX and Jaguar Z-Pace. Volvo has taken a comfort-first approach to its vehicles, ever since the reborn XC90, and the firm has clearly tried to continue that train of thought through to the XC40. This is to say that if you're looking for dynamic sparkle and hot hatchback rivaling agility down a country road, you'll be better off elsewhere. For everyone else, though, the XC40 strikes a nice balance between composure and comfort. It can get caught out on pockmarked city streets, particularly at low speeds and on the optional larger wheels, but provided you stick with the original items, you're likely to find the baby Volvo a pretty relaxing place to spend time. This isn't just down to ride quality, of course, because the engines do a good job of fading into the background too. We've spent most time with the D4 188 bhp diesel, which has more than enough shove for a car of the XC40's size and weight, to the point where it actually feels pretty brisk. The engine does its best work between 1,500 revolutions per minute and 3,000 revolutions per minute, and the 8-speed auto was keen to shift up just before the higher of those figures. It's nicely judged, really, because that's also the point where the motor really identifies itself as a diesel, through a harsher note and increased volume. It's worth remembering, though, that should you want to get more involved in the gear shifting process, you'll only be able to spec steering wheel mounted shift paddles on our design editions of the car. And this restriction is compounded by the fact that the stubby gear selector between the front seats actually has a lateral shift pattern. Pull it towards the driver to shift down, and push it towards the passenger to shift up. It's a bizarre layout that will take even the most adaptable of drivers a long time to get used to. Even on those optional wheels, at high speeds the XC40 does a good job of soaking up road imperfections. You'll occasionally notice a slight floating effect, but it never strays to the point of making you seasick. Its trickiest moments come at low speeds around town, where you might find the car troubled by deep potholes. Then again, we'd expect a standard momentum on 18 inches to demonstrate a bit more compliance in this regard. It wouldn't be unreasonable to expect such a generally wafty small SUV to be boat-like in corners, but in fact, the XC40 stays composed, even when required to perform a sudden, rapid change of direction. The steering adds to the experience, not because it's blessed with any great deal of feedback, but rather because it's nicely weighted and pleasingly direct. Playing around with the car's drive mode selector and switching it into dynamic actually has a negative effect, in fact, because it adds heft to the steering instead of any discernible extra communication. The XC40 has a mix of turbocharged petrol and turbodiesel engine options. The range starts with the T3 3-cylinder petrol, producing 154 bhp and available only with front-wheel drive and a manual gearbox. Step up to the T4 and T5, 188 bhp and 247 bhp, and you're restricted to all-wheel drive and Volvo's 8-speed auto transmission. The diesel lineup offers a bit more choice, because the 148 bhp D3 is available with either front or all-wheel drive, and a manual or auto gearbox. The 188 bhp D4 is all-wheel drive and auto only, however. We've had most experience with the D4 so far, and it's a likable unit. It pulls strongly from 1,500 revolutions per minute, and its peak-to-work of 400 Nm is more than enough to haul a car of the XC40's size out of trouble pretty quickly. The engine's note will become coarse if you decide to rev it out, but frankly, it's already doing enough at 3,000 revolutions per minute for you to shift up anyway. And it won't have become intrusive by that stage. The XC40's engine lineup comprises state-of-the-art motors, but there's only so much you can do without electrification. So the efficiency figures on the XC40 are respectable for the class, but no better than that. The most frugal XC40 on paper is the lesser of its diesels, the D3, in front-wheel drive and manual gearbox form. It emits 127 grams/km of CO2, which compares pretty well with, say, the cleanest diesel version of the Audi Q3. Switch to the higher-powered 188 bhp diesel and things look better for the Volvo, because even with more power, four-wheel drive and an automatic transmission, its CO2 figure only rises to 131 grams/km. That's some way clear of the 150 grams/km emitted by a similarly powered four-wheel drive Q3. As you might expect, the petrol XC40 takes a hit on fuel efficiency and CO2 emissions. At 152 grams/km, the T3 probably has a big enough tax hit for lots of company car choosers to overlook it. Volvo is introducing a new form of ownership with the XC40. Called Care by Volvo, it's a glorified lease scheme that rolls in a number of other factors, including servicing and maintenance, to give peace of mind and fixed-price motoring. It's only being introduced in a few small areas of the country for now, though. Volvo has yet to confirm comprehensive insurance groups for the XC40. But we'd expect them to be comparable with those of German rivals, not least because of the Swedish brand's reputation for passive and active safety systems. It's too early yet to get accurate depreciation data on the XC40, but Volvo is currently on the crest of wave in terms of customer demand. Factor in the strong premium SUV market and we'd be surprised if the XC40 wasn't popular enough for some time, delivering solid residual values for those early examples that do bleed through to the used market. The one caveat to this is the early first edition models, which are fully laden but priced at a premium. This is an increasingly popular trend with manufacturers, but the jury's out on how those cars hold their value once the regular versions of the car have started to be delivered. Volvo has deliberately moved the XC40 away from the more luxurious, grown-up presence offered by the larger XC60 and XC90 models, but that doesn't mean there's no scope for impressive design touches or the latest technology. Quite the opposite, in fact, because the baby Volvo really doesn't bring something new to the premium small SUV market. The car's styling was inspired by small robots that the British designer, Ian Kettle, saw in science fiction movies. The end result is lots of simple, clean, resolved lines, and a look that manages to look chunky and cute at the same time. It's helped by a further evolution of Volvo's Taurus hammer headlight motif at the front end. There's more scope for personalization than on the XC60 and XC92, thanks to contrast roof colors on some versions, black or white, depending on the trim level. Inside, there's not much in the way of opulence, and yet the XC40 still manages to deliver a dose of Swedish cool, in the same was a well-resolved IKEA living room display. There's remarkably little clutter, and although the actual amount of space isn't any greater than the class average, the Volvo's plethora of neat practical touches makes the XC40 feel a lot more real-world livable than many of its rivals. Technology helps with this too, of course. And in this respect, a slice of shameless carryover from the XC60 and XC90 works wonders, because the XC40 gets the same 9-inch portrait layout infotainment display as its larger brothers, as well as a 12.3-inch digital instrument panel instead of conventional dials. These are standard across the range, too. All new era Volvos have scored pretty strongly on infotainment, and since the XC40 offers basically the same system as its bigger stablemates, it looks particularly strong for its class. The 9-inch portrait format system, with its collapsible blunt interface, takes a little bit of getting used to, but it's quick to navigate once you get the hang of things and the screen is crystal clear. It's also able to transfer key information, such as sat-nav instructions, across to the fully digital instrument panel that's standard across the range. The only fly in the ointment here is smartphone integration, because while Android Auto and Apple CarPlay are available, they're a £300 option. That's pretty stingy when this level of connectivity is standard on many mid-range superminis. And even if you do choose it, it doesn't make the best of the available screen space, appearing as a letterbox format window instead of using the full portrait layout available. The XC40 enters a class where style and image have traditionally been more important than genuine space. But while the Volvo doesn't deliver an aircraft hangar's worth of room in the cabin, it manages to do enough to stand out from the crowd. The XC40's interior is neat, functional and, in its own way, very Swedish. If you're absolutely set on having soft-touch fabrics and squishy plastic on the dashboard, then you'll probably judge it a disappointment, but the rest of us should find the interior a pretty special place to spend time. The fascia has relatively few switches, and a clean, uncluttered look. And depending on the trim you choose, and your bravery with the options list, there will be a vibrant flock lining in the enormous door bins to offer a dash of funky color. The capacity of these door cubbies is huge, in fact, helped by Volvo's decision to move the speakers out of their traditional area and arrange a sound system based around the top of the dashboard instead. There are plenty of simple, clever touches, too. You'll find a folding hook integrated into the glove box that is designed to help you make it home without spilling a drop of your chicken chow mein. The rather flimsy-looking lidded compartment between the front seats turns out to be a removable, washable bin. And there's also the option of a wireless phone charging pad and USB port at the base of the center console. A lengthy wheelbase helps with rear legroom, although the amount of headroom for backseat passengers is equally impressive, even with the optional panoramic sunroof fitted. There's plenty of room on board for 4 grown-ups, although a 5th adult may complain about the high transmission tunnel. The boot isn't the largest in the class, but the floor is commendably flat and there are some clever, optional, dividers that help to stop your shopping from rolling around when you're on the move. Size. The Volvo XC40 is 4,425 mm long, 1,863 mm wide and 1,658 mm tall. That makes it a little shorter than the BMW X1, but longer than an Audi Q3, and it's notably wider and taller than both of those rivals, too. Expect the XC40 to provide a cavernous cabin and you'll be disappointed. But what the Volvo does do is maximize the potential of what space is on offer. There's plenty of space for 2 adults up front, and you'll be able to fit a couple of grown-ups in the back seats easily too. The XC40 has a pretty long wheelbase, so they should be fine for legroom, and the amount of headroom for backseat passengers is equally as impressive, even with the optional panoramic sunroof fitted. Can you squeeze a third person into the rear seats? Yes, at a push. But there's a transmission tunnel running down the middle of the floor, so they may complain about having to place their feet at either side of it. The XC40 doesn't boast the largest load bay in its class, but it's easy to use what space is on offer there. That's because the 460-liter boot has an impressively flat floor, with no lip at the front edge, so it's easy to slide heavier items in there. Even more importantly, the floor stays flat even if you lower the rear seats to increase the space on offer to 1,336 liters. Spec the convenience pack and you will get a folding boot floor that can divide the space and stop your shopping from rolling around. The hinges even stand proud of the top edge of the resulting divider, giving you a few extra points from which to hang shopping bags. The XC40 is built on Volvo's latest CMA platform, and that means that its underpinnings are, in theory, relatively unproven. However, the Swedish firm has designed the chassis to accommodate its family of 4-cylinder and 3-cylinder petrol and diesel engines, many of which have seen use in other models before. This, and the fact that the Volvo gets other components from larger stablemates, such as the infotainment system and some switches, should help it to achieve a pretty decent level of reliability. Volvo finished 7th overall in our most recent driver power rankings for manufacturer reliability, a decent score that put the Swedish brand ahead of the usual German rivals, Mercedes, BMW and Audi, but well behind winner Lexus. Safety continues to be a big priority for Volvo, and while the XC40 hasn't been through the Euro NCAP test, we'd confidently predict a 5-star verdict when it does. You get automatic emergency braking across the range, and it's capable of spotting not only cars but also pedestrians and large animals. Plus every XC40 gets a lane departure system which will intervene and pull the car back into lane if it fears you're going to steer into the path of oncoming traffic. The XC40 comes with a 3-year warranty, which is par for the course in the class, although the mileage limit for the cover is 60,000 miles instead of the industry standard 36,000 miles. Volvo hasn't announced servicing prices for the XC40 yet. However, the firm has a history of offering fixed price plans that can be paid for upfront or on a monthly basis, and we'd expect that to continue for this car.